We talk a lot about critical race theory. We talk almost not at all about something called Lat-Crit, which is Latino critical race theory. We talk almost not at all about critical gender theory. We talk almost not at all about the movement behind climate change, so-called, and the Green New Deal. Well, in this book that I've written, American Marxism, we talk about all of them and more because they intersect. That's a word I didn't invent, intersectionality. That's a word one of the critical race theoreticians in a law school in California invented. They all intersect. And what's the common denominator? The white dominant American society must go. That is, it must be destroyed from within, one way or another. All the progress that's been made economically is not progress at all. All the race relations progress that we've made, well, that's not progress at all either. And I want to talk about this briefly before I bring the guests on. I'm watching now on MSNBC, Joy Reid and others who are lying through their teeth about what's taking place with critical race theory. They either don't comprehend what it means, or they're purposely misleading the public. Critical race theory is not about learning the history of America. It's not about learning slavery and segregation. It's not about learning about neo-Nazis and the Klan. It's about a Marxist movement invented by Marxists, Herbert Marcuse, Derek Bell, and many, many others. And it attracts the Marxists like Black Lives Matter founders, two of three who've already said that they are Marxists. And that's not a coincidence, because this was hatched by professors as a way to attack the society from a Marxist perspective. So when Joy Reid goes on MSNBC and asks one of the professors involved in leading this movement, you know, some people are actually saying this is a Marxist-based movement, and I've been saying it now, really, for some time. And that professor never said, no, it's not, because she can't. You want to know why? I read what she wrote, and she's written a lot. In fact, I read what Herbert Marcuse wrote, and he wrote a lot. And I read what Derek Bell wrote, and he wrote a lot. And they all say it. They can't deny it, but they want to embrace it. Now, the problem is this. This ideology, again, isn't about teaching history. It's about teaching lies. It's about teaching racism. It was considered a kook fringe movement in the 1960s and 70s. Now, the United States military is promoting it. Now, every federal department and agency is promoting it, thanks to Joe Biden. Now, almost every school district is promoting it, thanks to these administrators and school board members, and of course, the National Education Association and the American Federation of Teachers. And we're going to continue to talk about this on this program, and I hope you will pre-order a copy of American Marxism because it lays it out, but it lays out more than that. Have you ever heard of Lat-Crit? Lat/CRIT? This is a Latino/Chicano movement that pulls in the critical theory and critical race theory ideas. And what's the bottom line with this? The bottom line is, Americans, you're the interlopers. You're the illegal aliens. In fact, the entire existence of the United States of America is a result of imperialism and colonialism by white Protestant Europeans who came into this continent and imposed their will and created this country. That the real natives, indigenous peoples of this area are south of the border. And so they have every right to come to this country. They're not illegal aliens. You're an illegal alien. And so they do not accept or recognize the sovereignty of the United States because there is no United States. There is no United States. Now, this is also being taught in our colleges and universities in addition to critical race theory. And that's what they mean by intersectionality. So we have all these victims, all the oppressed by the existing civil society that's doing all the oppressing. And so everybody has a chip on their shoulder. Everybody has a reason to want to overthrow and overturn the existing society. And so that's the notion that there are two Americas, North America, South America, and they argue even there's really one America. And the indigenous peoples, of course, are the people who are coming into this country, not the people who are in the country. And by the way, as a footnote, that's an interesting argument from these radical Marxists, because when it comes to the Middle East, they forgot about who the indigenous people are. They're the Jewish people. Well, they've only been there 4,000 years, you see, but apparently they live on occupied territory. All right, but that's not all. So you have critical race theory, you have lat crit. What else do you have? You have what I call critical gender theory. Now, what's that? Well, that's why Facebook says there's 58 varieties of genderism and things you do with your gender. Okay. There's not this binary thing where we call a male and a female. A male has this and a female has that. No, 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 no. And why is that part of this so-called spawned Marxist movement out of Marxism? Many of its leaders and many of its scholars, how do I know it? I've read it. It's in the book. They believe that this whole idea of a man and a woman and biological genitalia, that's been imposed by a social contract early on in the history of this country by the same people who were enslaved blacks, the same people who took over territories that belonged to Latinos and Chicanos. And these people are trying to impose their morals and their religious beliefs on society. And who are they to do that? Who the hell are they to do that? And so this movement, particularly the trans movement, as they call it, I suppose, that rejects it. And so you have Facebook pushing 58 different varieties and others pushing 4 different varieties. And now when you get on an airline, you can say male, female, other, whatever that means. And you can see this being pushed by the Department of Education. Again, it's being pushed in our schools. Transgenderism. If somebody is transgendering and they're of proper age, nobody cares. Nobody said don't do whatever. People may have their opinion if you're going to make it public. It doesn't belong in elementary schools. One of the entities that's pushing it among students is the United Nations, as you'll see again in American Marxism, the book. And they have a whole teaching plan that's being used now. Have you checked about this transgenderism movement? Not that people are transgender, a movement. Have you checked it in your elementary schools lately? Many of you may not know this, but it's there, and it's not getting the attention that it deserves. Critical race theory, lat crit, transgenderism, what else? The war on capitalism. You can't be a good Marxist without attacking capitalism. Now, they don't call themselves Marxists. Well, some of the honest ones do in their writings, in their scholarships, in their public pronouncements, but the rest of them pretend, no, it's no big deal. You saw Obama the other day. When he came to critical race theory, he does one of his laughs, and he says, well, what is this? It's not a big deal. He knows better than anybody else. It is a big deal. So the war on capitalism. You see, the Marxists, or as Bernie Sanders likes to lie about himself, democratic socialists, they hate capitalism because capitalism does what? It proves Marxism wrong. I'll give you a perfect example. Would you rather be a factory worker, an assembly line worker at General Motors, or a factory worker, an assembly line worker in Russia, or under the old Soviet communist system, or in Mao's China, or in North Korea? In other words, there is no great proletariat, the masses who are going to rise up and overthrow societies. They don't. It's really a relatively small group of people, most of them college educated, who are trying to take over the society and impose their will, as they are in this country. The great proletariat in America never rose up. It's called the middle class. We have the greatest so-called middle class with the greatest wealth, the greatest access to material goods than ever before in world history. Now they attack that. Oh, you Americans, you're 5% of the population of the world or 3% of the population of the world, and you use 25% of the resources. See, they turn on a dime. First it's a repressive economic system that doesn't provide for most people. Now it is an economic system of opulence and grotesque abundance that steals from the rest of the world, the third world and the developed nations, while people are engorging themselves here in the United States. Get it? It's whatever works. So all these forces and more, these are spawned from the notion of Marxism. It's not a passing fad. It's not liberalism. It's not, oh, there's the old Democrat Party. No, no, no. This is here. This is now. It's in your face. Your kids are being taught this. This is resonating throughout our culture. Corporations are embracing this. Media platforms, of course, are promoting it. The Democrat Party is the home of all these ideological views. And so that's why, again, I wrote this book, American Marxism. It comes out July 13th. I hope you'll pre-order your copies. And I must tell you, this book, as I speak to you now, has 150,000 pre-ordered copies. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. And we need to have more, because we need to build a resistance movement like we did with the Tea Party, the Reagan Revolution, the Trump Revolution, all these efforts to protect this society, to keep our country, not because we're white, but because we're Yanks, red-blooded Americans. And what does the other side offer? Oh, yes. What does the enemy offer? Marxism? Neo-Marxism? Well, what does that mean? Well, tell me, where on the face of the earth has Marxism worked? Where on the face of the earth has Marxism not resulted in the slaughtering of tens of millions of people, the imprisonment of tens of millions of people, the silencing of hundreds of millions of people? Is that really what we want in the greatest nation on the face of the earth? Well, we got to call it what it is. It's an American brand of Marxism. That's what it is. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't a Republican conspiracy effort, as they say on MSNBC and CNN. The Republican Party's not even in the battle. They have nothing to do with this. They're people from the bottom up, parents who see what's going on in their classrooms. And we need more. Not just parents who see what's going on in their classrooms, but everybody. Everybody. Put our differences aside, whatever they may be, political or otherwise. Put our disputations aside, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. If we love our country, we want freedom, we want opportunity for our kids and our grandkids, then we need to galvanize, we need to rally, and I mean peacefully. We need to do what great Americans do, save our republic and save our society.